He didn't wave for attention. He didn't scream to be seen. He didn't trade silence for applause. Peter Thompson just played. And the game moved quietly in his favor. He glided past men with boots full of mud on pitches that punished the brave. And he never looked down. Before the age of stepovers, before the weight of branding, before Barnes, before Salah, there was Thompson. The sleeves were long. The crowd rose when he moved, and the full back stayed twisted. No tricks, no drama, just movement that couldn't be taught. He gave Liverpool its width, he gave them escape, he gave them time to breathe, but football moved forward. The noise got louder, the credits rolled on others. Still, the silence remembers. And now, we speak his name. Not in nostalgia, but in justice. Subscribe if you believe some players don't need a trophy room to define greatness. They just need to be seen, properly, at last. He was born in Carlisle on 27 November 1942, where the streets were quiet but the feet were quick. By 17, he wasn't dreaming of football, he was already doing it. Full debut. First Division, 30 August 1960. Arsenal. No nerves, no delay. They say some players grow into their roles. Peter Thompson just stepped in and never gave it back. He played like the game had been waiting for him. Fast, fearless, fluid. He wasn't bulky, he wasn't brash, but he was uncatchable. Preston North End didn't just find a winger, they found a rhythm, and by the time he turned 20, he'd played over 100 senior matches, scored 20 goals, and become the most chased wide man in England. Big clubs were watching, but he stayed. Then came February 1962, an FA Cup second replay at Old Trafford. Preston versus Liverpool. Thompson scores the winner. Bill Shankly, watching from the opposite dugout, doesn't flinch. He doesn't shout. He just writes down one name. And from that moment, the road to Anfield wasn't a dream. It was a matter of time. The offer came in June 1963, £37,000. A winger from Carlisle to Shankly's rising empire. No trial, no hesitation. Peter Thompson became a Liverpool player, and Bill Shankly never looked back. He didn't arrive to rotate, he arrived to start. And he did. Every match, all season, 42 games. 0 missed. Liverpool won the First Division that year, and the man on the left wing had barely settled in. He played with ease, but never casual. He played with pace, but never waste. The passes came faster, the ground harder, but nothing fazed him. Roger Hunt up front, Ian St. John beside him, Ron Yates commanding the back, and Thompson, always there, gliding past defenders like they were painted on. Shankly didn't need to motivate him. He just stood on the touchline and watched him beat another man. Bill Shankly once said, Peter Thompson had everything, a winger with courage, skill, and flair. He played football the Liverpool way. That first title in 1963-64 wasn't built on slogans. It was built on men who made winning look simple. And Peter Thompson, with his sleeves down and head still, was already becoming the man no one talked about, but no one could replace. He didn't wear armor, he didn't need to. The ball was enough. In an era where defenders kicked first and asked never, Peter Thompson kept running. Not around them, through their intentions. He played on pitches that swallowed ankles, with boots that soaked up weight, against men who'd studied his every move, and still never stopped it. He didn't dive, didn't stall, didn't fall at shadows. He beat his man, and then beat him again. Not for the crowd, but because the angle wasn't right yet. They called it elegance. But elegance with elbows in your ribs and studs chasing your shins, that's something else. Ian Callahan once said, Pete could drop a shoulder and leave 2 men behind without breaking stride. We always knew he'd get past his marker. He didn't use tricks, he used time, the pause, the lean, the shoulder, and then gone. There were no celebrations when he delivered the cross, just a turn, a jog back to position. The job was to provide, and he did it without instruction. For 10 years at Anfield, the left wing was spoken for. Not by banners, not by slogans, but by performance. Tommy Smith once said, when Peter was on form, you couldn't touch him. He made it look easy. And to be honest, it was sad how little credit he got. While others barked and clashed, Peter Thompson floated. Not away from danger, through it. He didn't just survive at Liverpool, he became a pillar. The medals weren't scattered, they came with weight. And Peter Thompson earned everyone with chalk on his boots and lungs that never asked for mercy. First Division champion, 1963-64, his first season. Then again in 1965-66. In between, the one that changed everything, FA Cup winner 1965. Liverpool's first ever, Wembley, Leeds United, extra time. And Thompson running, always running, pulling defenders wide, creating the space that legends live in. That same year, they went to Europe. Cup Winners' Cup finalists, 1966. He started, he delivered, they lost to Dortmund, but Liverpool had arrived. Shankly kept him in every big game. Not as a luxury, as a necessity. Thompson was never dropped, never out of form, and rarely injured, until the knees began whispering in later years. He played 416 times in all competitions for Liverpool, scored 54 goals. But it was never about the finish, it was always about the movement. He gave them width, he gave them breadth, he gave them time when time was everything. And as Liverpool grew into a giant, the man on the left stayed constant, gliding beside history like it was part of the run. He had the form, he had the flair, he had the fitness, but the door never opened wide enough. 16 caps. That's all England gave him. Between 1964 and 1970, while he lit up Anfield and danced through Europe, his country kept looking elsewhere. Not because he failed, because the system changed. Alf Ramsey's England didn't use wingers. They played narrow, they played functional. And players like Peter Thompson, players who gave the game beauty, were left to wait. He was named in the 28-man provisional squad for 1966, again in 1970, but never made the final cut. He didn't complain, didn't chase headlines, didn't go to the press. He just played, then played again. Others wore the England shirt for moments. He wore Liverpool's for a decade. No goals for England. But then again, he wasn't there to score. He was there to stretch the pitch, to shift defenders, to create time for others. And in a different era, in a system that valued silk as much as steel, Peter Thompson might have had 40 caps, maybe more. But he carried the 16 he was given, with pride, with silence, with no need for rewrites. Time doesn't ask permission, and knees don't forget. By the early 1970s, Peter Thompson's body started speaking louder than the game around him. The pace hadn't dropped, but the pain never waited. He made his last first-team appearance for Liverpool in January 1972. 10 years of service. 416 matches. No farewell lap. Just silence. In December 1973, he joined Bolton Wanderers. First on loan, then permanent. A smaller stage, but he still delivered. 117 league appearances, 2 goals, and 1 last medal. Second Division champions, 1977-78. He didn't cut corners, he just adapted, played smarter, played knowing the clock was ticking. And when that final season ended, he didn't announce anything. He just walked off the pitch. Retired quietly in 1978, no banners, no parades, no farewell interviews. Just one more winger who'd left everything he had on every blade of grass he was ever given. He didn't chase the spotlight when it left, he just stepped aside. After retirement in 1978, Peter Thompson walked into a different life, not with bitterness, but with peace. He ran a caravan park in Knott End-on-Sea, a quiet stretch of Lancashire coast, far from the noise of Anfield. Later, he opened hotels in the Lake District and Harrogate, places where people came to rest, not to cheer. He didn't give interviews, didn't try to stay in the game, didn't trade memories for headlines. In 2006, he moved to Portugal, not as a footballer, just as a man who had done enough. He married twice, raised 4 children, lived as privately as he once played. And when the end came, 30th December 2018, aged 76, there were no national tributes, no Hall of Fame, no headline farewell, but the fans remembered, the old ones. The ones who stood on the terraces and saw him fly down the wing without once asking to be remembered. They said his name again, and that was enough. He never shouted for legacy, he never fought for space in the spotlight, he just played until the game moved without him. But Peter Thompson left fingerprints on the touchline. in the glide, in the stillness before the cross. In the fullback's hesitation, not because of speed, but because of grace. He was never inducted into a hall, no testimonial, no statue. But go back, watch the reels from Liverpool's first golden climb. He's always there, unmissable once you know where to look. Before the stepovers, before the trademarks, there were players who gave the game shape, and Thompson shaped it from the wing without asking the world to notice. He didn't vanish, he just didn't explain. He lived quietly and left quietly. But for those who still believe the game was once made of rhythm, balance, and dignity, his name still matters. Subscribe if you believe silence deserves memory. If you believe movement can be louder than words. If you believe some legends should never have to ask to be seen. Because Peter Thompson didn't demand greatness. He just showed it and walked away.